The recording has started, so good night to everyone, and welcome to your first information technology class in fourth form. So, let me give you an idea as to what we will be doing. So, firstly, you would notice in the WhatsApp group, in the description, you have your classroom. So I just created your classroom. Your code is in the description of the WhatsApp group. On the classwork for that classroom, you're going to see some information already added. So you're going to see a syllabus, your information technology syllabus, and you're going to see the notes that we are covering for this term. So this term we are looking at spreadsheets. Now, where is the textbook? All of you have a copy of the digital textbook? This file here I'm talking about. Do you guys have a copy of this here? I was sent it multiple times. So what we're doing is, for fourth form and fifth form, we're basically covering 5 topics in total. We're going to cover 3 major topics in fourth form because we have 3 terms, and in fifth form we're going to cover another 2 main topics. So the first term in fourth form, you're going to be covering chapter 7, which is spreadsheet. So we're going to be learning everything about spreadsheet. What is spreadsheet? What are the uses of spreadsheet, and how you can use spreadsheet professionally. Then in the next term, which is going to be Easter term, we're going to cover chapter 8. We're going to be looking at database. What is a database? Why do companies, persons use database? And how you can create a database. Then, in the final term of fourth form, we will cover chapter 5, word processing. So we'll be looking at Microsoft Word and how to create professional documents, how to use Microsoft Word effectively to carry out certain tasks. So that's the final term in fourth form. Now, depending on how things go, the other topic, web page design, could be covered in the final term of fourth form or in the beginning term of fifth form, depending on how things go. But the next topic is web page design. So with this topic here, with this chapter, we'll be teaching you how to create a web page, how to create a website. And then finally, your fifth topic, which is chapter 9, chapter 10, and chapter 11. It's one series of topic, which is basically programming. So we teach you how to create a program. We teach you the skills that are needed to create a program. We teach you the rules, the logics, and how beneficial knowing how to create a program can be to you. We help you to understand all of that. So that is your 5 major topics that you'll be covering for the remainder of your time in fourth form and fifth form, and as you meet your exam, your CSEC exam. So as I mentioned, this term we're going to cover spreadsheet. Are you guys following so far? Would be nice if everyone could respond so that I can know if you're following or not. Good. So, um, so that is the topics you'll be covering. If you notice, in your classroom, I already placed all of your notes. So chapter 7, the entirety of chapter 7, I split it up so that it's in the individual chapters also, so that you can look at it individually. Now, note your instructions. You're not writing back all of the notes. You're not going to print anything. You're not going to write back everything. You're going to make your own notes. As we go through each chapter, you already have the digital copy of the textbook. You already have the digital copy of all of the notes, all of the chapters. So why are you going to go and print everything? Why are you going to go write back everything? What you're doing is summarizing the main points in your book, so that when it comes for exam time, you can basically use that summary to study for your exam. So that's your goal right now for making notes. For everything for the remainder of 4th and 5th form IT, that is how you'll be making your notes. You're summarizing the main points that can help you to remember that particular topic. Now, in terms of SBA, you guys know what is the SBA? Or the question should be, do you know what is an SBA? Alright, so an SBA, which stands for School-Based Assessment, is basically, it plays a part in you getting a grade at CSEC, at your CSEC exam. This is for all of your subjects, whether it's physics, chemistry, biology, principle of accounts, principle of business, doesn't matter which subject, they all have what is called an SBA. Now, in addition to writing an exam, so this is just an example. You have your CSEC exam and your paper 1. Your paper 1. What is happening? Your paper 1 exam, say for instance, it is 30% of your overall CSEC grade, whether you get a grade 1, a grade 2, whatever the case may be. Your paper 2, what? Your paper 2 is going to be, say that is 30% also. We're just using some rough figures. And then say your SBA now is 30, 30, 60. This is going to be 40% of your CSEC exam grade. So, what determines your grade at CSEC is not only the paper that you're going to write, not only the exam. They also have a SBA, which is an assessment, a practical assessment to see if you understand the topic, because the exam is basically theory. These two, paper 1 and paper 2, is basically theory. So to test you practically to see if you understand exactly what is happening in your topic, in this particular subject, you have what is called the SBA. Now each subject SBA is going to be different, because each subject will test you basically in a different practical way. Now for IT SBA, so think of the SBA like an assignment. So just like how for Easter term and end of term you would have coursework, assignments, and then a final exam, CSEC is basically the same thing. You have the SBA, which is like a coursework for CXC, and then you go and write your final exam, your paper 1, paper 2, and then you get a grade. Now, even though You could go and write your paper 1 and paper 2 and not do an SBA. You can do that. But what's going to happen is that you will not get a grade. You're going to get what is called ungraded. You guys ever heard of anybody got ungraded for an exam? No? Yes? Good. Some persons have received a grade of ungraded, which means they basically did not receive a grade. And the reason for that is because they did not submit an SBA. The person did not submit an SBA. So that's how important an SBA is. It doesn't matter which one of your subject we're talking about. If it's EDPM, anyone is science or business subject, doesn't matter. You must complete that SBA. If you do not, and you go and write your paper 1 and paper 2 exam, and you do your very best in those 2 exams, you will not get a grade. That's how CXC does their exam. So that's how important the SBA is, and that's why you're going to notice as time goes by, your teachers play a very strong emphasis on the SBA. Sometimes they even place more emphasis on the SBA than content, because completing that SBA is very important in order for you to get a grade, because you can always go and study at any point in time. So going back to IT, you have your paper 1, you have your paper 2 exam, and you must complete an SBA. Now what is this SBA for IT? Now, as we would have mentioned so far, that in IT, 4th form and 5th form, we are covering 5 major topics: spreadsheet, database, Word, web page design, and programming. Those are our 5 major topics that we'll be covering. Now, the SBA actually is one large SBA, but it has 5 parts. So it is broken up into 5 parts. It's one long continuous SBA, but it has 5 parts, like 5 sections. And those parts actually refer to each topic that we're covering. So for example, spreadsheet, there's a spreadsheet SBA. Database, there's a database SBA. There's a word processing SBA. There's a web page design SBA. There's a programming SBA. So basically, the SBA is like an assessment to see if you understand the topic practically, if you understand how to use that particular tool that we're teaching you there. So basically, as we finish teaching you the topic, we will try to give you that particular SBA. So basically the plan is to teach spreadsheet, everything that you need to know, and then you will get that part of the SBA to work on, to complete, to show that you would have understand what you would have learned. Then when you finish with that, the next term we move on to database. We finish the content, we finish all of the learning part of it, and then we give you the database SBA once again for you to work on that. And that's how we'll be doing things. We cover the content and we give you that particular SBA to complete. Are you guys following so far? Any questions from anyone so far? Any questions? Africa, are you there? I don't think I'm hearing from you at all. Alright, I think that's all of the information you need at this point in time. We're covering 5 major topics. Each topic has an SBA. And remember, we're going to be making use of your classroom. Your classroom has all of the notes. Remember, you're summarizing your notes. You have your syllabus here. I can't post the textbook here because it's going to violate copyright laws with Google Drive. So if you guys need me to send it back to you, I'll have to send it on WhatsApp again. Alright, if no questions on anything that I would have said so far, we are going to have a look at our very first chapter. So we're going to be starting spreadsheet tonight. So chapter 7.1, we're looking at the introduction to spreadsheet. So we're going to look at what is spreadsheet, what is it used for, what is its purpose, and so on. As we go through, please ensure you're making your notes. Now, I'll basically read the paragraph and discuss that paragraph, and you will follow through, and if I ask you anything, you will respond to see if you are following also. So, the very first paragraph states, spreadsheets are a particularly good choice of software when you want to work with numbers and display results in graphs. So this can be an exam-based question for CXC. It could be an exam-based question. They might ask you, what is the purpose of spreadsheets? What is it mainly used for? It is mainly used for working with numbers. Now, when you're working with numbers, question for you guys, when you're working with numbers, what are you doing with those numbers? What do we do with numbers? Y'all don't do anything with numbers? You count it, add, and what do we call that? You count it, you add, what do we call that? It's one general term. What is one general term for adding, subtracting, multiplying, counting with numbers? Mathematics. Stephanie said it. Calculations. So, what do we do with numbers? We perform calculations on those numbers. In mathematics, you perform calculations on those numbers. So one of the main use of spreadsheet, the main purpose of spreadsheet is to perform calculations, because that's what you do with numbers. So spreadsheet, it's mainly used for numbers, to work with numbers. And what do we do with numbers? We perform calculations on those numbers. Now, in addition to calculation, what else can we do with numbers? In addition to calculating them, what else can we do with numbers? Say we have a lot of numbers. What else can we do with it? That there should be a hint. Say we have all of your grades. Those are numbers. What can we do with it? Or what should we do with it? All of your grades. Throw them away? Record them? Correct. So record or store, whichever one you want to use. So that there is also another use of spreadsheet, to record or store your numbers. So yes, at the same time you're going to put in your numbers to perform your calculations, but you're going to also use the spreadsheet to store these numbers. So say for instance, you would use spreadsheet to store the grades of students. That's what all teachers do. They put the grade of the student into the spreadsheet. They use it to store the that particular number, and at any point in time they need it to perform calculations, they do so right inside of the spreadsheet. So that's one purpose there of spreadsheet, to work with numbers, calculate those numbers, and to record or store those numbers. Now after you finish recording and calculating and doing all of those things with the numbers, we can also create a graph, create a chart, whereby to present the data, to present the numbers. So that's another use there, to present your numbers, to present your data, to present your information, so that you can see it in a more graphical manner. You can basically see it in a chart. So those are the purpose, the use of spreadsheets. Are you guys following so far? So the paragraph continues. Spreadsheets are therefore widely used in finance-related tasks, such as preparing budgets, payroll, financial statements, and invoices. Now, these documents here, budgets, payroll, financial statement, invoices, what do they all have in common? What do they all have? Numbers. Very good. What kind of numbers? None of you know what is an invoice? Financial statement? Payroll? You don't know what it is? Money numbers? Correct. So they will all have money or currency figures inside of them. So a budget, a payroll, financial statement, invoices, they would all have money values inside of them. Now, when you're dealing with money values, currency, what is the one thing you always got to do with those values, with those numbers? What is the one thing you're always doing with money? Spending? Before you spend, don't you do something? Check it? How do you check it? When you're checking, what are you basically doing? You're counting, and you're basically calculating. When you're counting, you're calculating. You're calculating how much money you have. If you got 200, if you got 300, and then you're going to calculate if the cheese roll is 160, if I got only 200 and I spend this 200 and I buy this cheese roll for 160, how much you can left back with? You're counting, you're calculating money all the time. So these documents here, the budget, the payroll, the financial statement, the invoice, they all have money values. They all have money inside of them. And you gotta constantly calculate your money. You gotta get what's the total, what's the discount, what's the expense, those kind of figures, what's the VAT, and so on. So it's constant calculation. So that is why spreadsheet is mainly used for finance related tasks, because finance related tasks, which is money, always has calculations, always deals with calculations. So that's why we use spreadsheet for these purposes. Are we following? Anyone has any questions? So the final part of the paragraph states that they also have advanced features such as what if analysis and forecast modeling. So these are some advanced features. So we have some. Alright, good. Very good question. What is an invoice? So when you go to Popeyes, KFC, you go to a Chinese store, what do you get when you buy an item? A bill. Now a bill, another name for a bill or a receipt, is actually an invoice. An invoice is a more business term to indicate the item price, the item discount. It's a more organizational business term whereby larger companies would use the term invoice. But what I've realized is that more smaller companies, they would use the term bill and receipt and so on. But it's basically like the same thing because it has the same information on it. Item, discount, price, total, and those kind of information. Any other questions? Alright, if no other questions. So these are important to remember. What are uses of the spreadsheet? So we got what is the purpose of spreadsheet, which is to do calculations. What is the main purpose of spreadsheet? To do calculations, to record data, to store data, to present data. But what do we use it for specifically? We use it for preparing budgets, preparing payroll, preparing financial statement, preparing invoices, basically preparing finance related tasks, finance related documents. That's what we use it for, more specifically. And some other advanced features that spreadsheet has is what is called a what if analysis. Now, a what if analysis, when you ask yourself that question, what if? What do you mean by that? Because you normally ask yourself that question, what if? What could happen? And when this thing happens, or what's usually the how should I ask the question? Alright, so let me give you an example. So you are going to the canteen. So this is the canteen. And you're going to the canteen and you're going to buy an egg ball. Now, the question now is, what if, so you're going to buy an egg ball. What if Auntie Dan does have egg ball, or what if Auntie Dan does not have egg ball? So if she has the egg ball, if she does not have the egg ball, how many choices or decision do you have? How many options do you have? Two. Good. Very good. You have two. So you go into the canteen and you want to buy an egg ball. So you have two options there. You go to the canteen and she does not have the egg ball. So what is going to happen? So that is basically, you're going to go to the canteen, she does not have the egg ball, so you're going to go to the right. Now if she does have the egg ball, you're going to go to the canteen and you're going to go to the left. So you basically end up with a situation whereby you're taking different paths. So that is the what if. What if Auntie Dan has egg ball? Then basically what are you going to do? You're going to buy that egg ball. But what if she does not have the egg ball? What are you going to do? You can get upset, you can buy something else, or you can walk out the canteen. So that is what if. What is going to happen when a certain situation is met? Now that's a more practical example. But in terms of dealing with numbers, we might ask questions like, we might do what if, like this here. What if the price for the egg ball is greater than 200? You only got $200. You come to school with only $200. So what if the price is greater than 200? So say for instance, what if the egg ball is 260? So what if 260 is greater than 200? What are you going to do? Then obviously, remember we got two paths. One, do not buy, because obviously you can't buy it because you don't have enough money. Or two, you credit the egg ball. So you go to Auntie Dan and tell her that I don't have the extra $60 and I would like to credit that egg ball. So that's a what if there. What is going to happen? Or you could even add another one. You can even say, don't buy the egg ball, basically. Save you 200, don't eat anything, and starve yourself instead of going into debt, basically. So that there is what if. What if, what is going to happen basically when you meet a certain situation, when you meet a certain criteria. And in more spreadsheet terms, it's more maths term we're going to use. What if 5 is greater than 10? What if 25% is equal to 1,000? Things like that we'll be looking at in spreadsheets. So that there is the what if analysis. Are you guys clear on that? And next, we have the next advanced feature is the forecast modeling. Now, any of you ever heard of stock exchange, the stock market? And for that stock market, what do they try to predict? the price. So they try to predict if that particular stock price is going to go up, if it's going to go down, whatever the case may be. So what they're basically trying to do is to forecast what the price is going to be. So it's kind of like how we just try to forecast what the weather is going to be. But we're looking at it in terms of more number base, in terms of spreadsheet base. So for example, price now, we try to determine if the price is going to go up, if the price is going to go down, and so on. So that there is an example, one example of forecast modeling. What they're going to do is take the previous data. So they would already know that in 2021, what was the pattern of the data, the price going up and down. They would look at the pattern in 2020 to see how it was rising and falling, and they can use that particular data to try to forecast. So they put that data into the spreadsheet and they try to predict now, to create some sort of model that's going to show them that maybe in 2022 the price might go up at this particular time, it might go down this particular time. So that is forecast modeling, trying to predict what sort some sort of criteria is going to be at a certain point in time. Are we clear on that? Anyone has any questions? Alright, so that is the first paragraph. We're gonna move on to our, so that there is what is spreadsheet. So next we need to understand what is the actual spreadsheet. So have any of you ever opened Microsoft Spreadsheets? Any of you ever used it before? So this is what it looks like, Microsoft Spreadsheet. Any of you ever used it before? Gayatri has. Gayatri, what have you used it for? Amisha has. I think you guys had some sort of assignment for it. No? Alright. So this is what the spreadsheet looks like. Now, what I can do, instead of going into this here, let me see. Alright, let me go through that. Let me go through this one paragraph first, and then I'll come back to that part there. So, we're going to go through this paragraph here, our next paragraph. Now, a spreadsheet is basically a grid of cells organized into rows and columns. So, if you look at it, it looks like your like a graph book. Basically, it has rows which goes across horizontally, and you have columns which comes down vertically. So that's like a graph book. So your spreadsheet is made up of rows and columns that basically gives you grids of cells. So each box that you see in here is what we call a cell. Each rectangular box that you see in is what we call a cell. So a spreadsheet is made up of a group of cells because of the intersection of the rows and columns. Now, important to note that each column has a name. Each column has a name, and that name has a letter. So if you notice, each column has a name, and that name starts with a letter. This is column A, this is column B, column C, column D, column H, column L, column O, column R. And it goes like that all the time. If you notice, when we reach Z, it basically combines two letters together. We now have AA, AB, and it keeps going like that all the time. Any of you on your computer right now? Good. If you're not, please, for future classes, join with your computer. All of our classes are practical classes, so you have to be on your computer. Now, open spreadsheet, and I want you to scroll all the way to the right and tell me what is the name of the last column. So look at the names of the column, scroll all the way to the right, and tell me what's the name of the last column. No, Z is not correct. Remember, it goes past Z. After Z is AA. We're not talking about the scroll bar. If you use the scroll bar, it won't take you to the end. You gotta use the arrow. Use the arrow and it's gonna take you all the way to the end. Anybody reaches it? What is the final column? Or one of it's too long to reach. Yeah, it might take a while to reach. I now realize it might be too much to reach. Alright, here's what to do. See this box here on the right hand? Sorry, on the left hand. If you hover over it, it shows that it's called the name box. So if you notice, it's showing you a combination of letter and number. What to do inside of this box is to type in X, Y, Z. X, Y, X, F, D. What? X. That is not supposed to happen. Why is it allowing me to name a cell as a column? Alright, you guys are gonna take that as homework. I'm not sure why it's allowing me to name the cell as that. Good. Going back to, so your first homework is to figure out or to research what is the final column in spreadsheets. What is the final column? You can also do for the row. What is the final row in spreadsheets? What is the final column? What is the final row in your spreadsheet? So, as we continue, I said that each column has a name, and that name has a letter. Now each row now has a number. So if you notice on the left hand side, you're going to see all of the row names. And if you actually scroll down, you hold the arrow and you go down, you can notice the numbers keep increasing also. We're currently in the hundreds, the 100s, and soon we're going to get into the 200s, and it keeps going and going until we reach the final row. So important to note that each column has a letter and each row has a number, and that letter or that number is the name of that column or row. Now next, this means that each cell has a unique reference identified by the column letter and row number. So because each column has a name, each row has a name, that intersection, because each one of them has a unique name, each row, each column has a unique name, then that means if we combine the column with that particular row, we are going to get the name of the cell. So let me scroll back to the very beginning. So if you notice, we are in column D and we are in row 4. So we take the column first, which is D, and then we put the name of the row after. So it's always letter first and then number after, and that gives you the name of the cell. Now if you look at the top left in the name box, it even shows you the name of the cell there also, D4. So wherever you click, you can always notice the name of that cell. Each cell has a name, and one thing to note is that each name is unique. No two cells have the same name, because it's almost impossible for them to have the same name, because each column is already unique, each row is already unique. So when you combine those two, you're going to get a unique name for each cell. So if you notice, when you scroll around, it's always either a different column name or a different row name. So I13, H12, F15, J17, and so on. So that there is the name of the cell, or we can also call it a unique reference. So we have multiple names for that cell there: unique reference, cell name, cell identifier, cell reference. Those are all terms we use to refer to it. Are you guys following so far? Stephanie, Lashante, Gayatri, you guys following?
Yes, sir.
Alright. So, for example, B4 specifies the cell is in column B and in row 4. So look at example 7.3. You will see spreadsheets are organized into rows and columns, blah 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 blah. Now by clicking the mouse, you can see the individual cells or a range of cells. So that's another important term here. What is a range of cells? A range of cells a range is a collection or a group of two or more cells. So one single rectangle that you see on the interface, that you see here, one single box, we call that a cell. Now at any point in time, if you highlight more than 2, if you highlight from 2 and going upwards, so if you highlight 2 or more cells, you get what is called a range. So it's basically a range of cells. So a range is basically a range of cells. So how much ever you highlight doesn't matter. Once it's 2 and above, that is what we call a range. It doesn't matter if it's inside of a column only, doesn't matter if it's inside of a row only, doesn't matter how large it is, how small it is. Once it's not a single cell, we call that a range. Are you guys clear on that? Great. So, the final thing we're going to look at for tonight, we are going to look at this interface here. So, I'm going to give you a rundown as to the spreadsheet interface, and I want you to remember the names of each part of the interface. So, the names of each part of the interface for a spreadsheet. Now at the very top, do you guys see book 1 - Excel? Very top left. See that? So in some older versions of Excel, they actually used to have it in the middle. I'm noticing for newer versions, they're putting this search bar in the middle. But this book 1 - Excel used to actually be in the middle. Nevertheless, this area here is called the title bar. So this is called the title bar because it's telling you what is the title for the file. So currently, because I did not save the file, it is book 1. By default, the name is book 1. So if I go and save the file now, it's actually going to show the name at the top here. So that's the first part of the interface you should take note. The title bar. What you guys can do, you can actually draw what you see and just draw a rough sketch and just put a label next to it that this is the title bar. You guys clear on that? We can move on. Yes, the title bar is where book 1 is. The title bar, as the name implies, title, it tells you the title of the document. So that is where you're going to see the name of the document. So that is book 1. Now, below the title bar, where you see File, Home, Insert, Draw, Page Layout, Formulas, Data, those we call tabs. T-A-B-S. So, title. So the first thing is your title bar. Then we have tabs. That was what we're looking at next. So, where you see Home, Insert, Draw, Page Layout, and so on, we call those tabs. The Home tab, Insert tab, Draw tab, Page Layout tab, the Formulas tab, the Data tab, the Review tab, whatever the name of the tab is, we say that name and the word tab at the end. View tab, Help tab, and so on. So these are called tabs, T-A-B-S. Home tab, Insert tab, and so on. Now under the tab, you're going to find a white strip going from the left to the right, all of them. Notice you have a white strip that going from left to right for all of them. This is what we call the ribbon. So this white area where you're seeing all of the options under the tab, the white area that you're seeing all of the options under the tab, that's what we call the ribbon. So the ribbon holds all of your options, all of your features that you can use. So far we looked at what is the title bar, what are the tabs, and what are the ribbons. Are you guys following so far? Alright. Now, under that ribbon, as I already mentioned already, on the left hand side, you're going to find a name box. So, as you can see, I am hovering my cursor over it. And where you see A3, that's what we call the name box. It basically tells you the name of the cell. To the right of that box, so you have the name box on the left hand side. To the right of that box, you're going to see the formula bar. So we have the formula bar. So the formula bar is a long bar. This long white bar that you see in here. Now the formula bar is basically where you're going to type your formula. Now if you notice, I'm going to go into a blank cell. Whatever you type inside of the cell appears in the formula bar. And similarly, notice I'm going to put my cursor in the formula bar. Notice the cursor blinking in the formula bar. Whatever you type in the formula bar will appear in the cell also. They're both one in the same location. The formula bar is linked to that particular cell. Each cell has its own formula bar basically. So whenever I go over here to this cell, notice the formula bar is empty until I start typing, and then it's going to appear in both the formula bar and inside of the cell. So that is basically where you type your information for the cell, in the formula bar. Now, so that's it for the top. I already told you about each column having a name. So notice at the very top you're seeing all of the column name, and on the left hand side you're seeing all of the row names, all of the numbers. Now at the bottom left, are you guys seeing a sheet 1 and a plus sign? Great. So what I want you to think of spreadsheet as, to think of it as a book. Think of spreadsheet as a book, and each sheet, think of it like a page. Now what we can actually do is create multiple pages, which we basically are going to call sheets. So notice sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, sheet 5, sheet 6. Every time you press plus, it's going to give me another sheet to my book. So think of the entire spreadsheet like a large book, and each sheet is going to be a new page. So if you notice, I'm going to go back to sheet 1, and notice the information here does not appear in the other sheets because these are like brand new pages. I haven't written anything on them as yet, so this is where I can enter new information. So that is the purpose of the sheets, so that you can have a blank area to enter your other information, new information, and so on. Now on the right hand side you have your scroll bar, which is going to take you left and right, up and down, and so on. Now underneath that is where you're gonna find page layouts, different views of your document, different way to see a document, to view your document. You have the normal view, you have the page layout view, and you have the page break view, and then you have your scroll bar, your zoom bar basically, which allows you to zoom in, zoom out, and so on. Now, not sure if anybody noticed, but when you're in Microsoft Word, you can see the size of the page. So you can know if you were to print this page, this is how the information is going to appear. But if you go back to spreadsheet, are you guys seeing any pages? Are you seeing the edge of the page, the beginning of the page, the end of the page? No, you're not seeing any page. All you're seeing is one large white area with a set of boxes. Now, say for instance you want to go and print this now, how will you know where the page is actually is? What size is actually the page? Is it so much column? Is it so much column? How will you know? Well, that is where the view at the bottom is going to come into play. See, as I said, we are currently on the normal view, so we don't see any pages. Now, if you select page layout, so you just need to give my computer a few seconds. For some reason, it freezes when you do certain things. I'm able to select another printer. I'm not asking you to print anything. Alright, let me now press escape. Just give it a few seconds. It's not working. Why is it not working? Alright, good. So notice it broke up the spreadsheet into pages. So now you can see the pages. So if you look at the top, so this is the page layout view. The page layout view. So notice your column A, column B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. So up to I is going to be a page. And notice on the next page has column J, K, L, M, N, and continuing. Now if you actually go back to normal view now, do you guys see this broken line now appearing? You see the broken line? Good. So this broken line, it appears when you select the page layout view and you go back to the normal view. So now, in broken lines, you can actually see the size of the pages. If I zoom out, now you can see the actual page sizes. So now you can know that this here is a one page, this here is another page. So if you go and print this spreadsheet, you know what is going to appear on a particular page. So that there is basically the interface for a spreadsheet. You have the title bar at the very top. Underneath the title bar you have your tabs. Underneath the tab, this entire white space is a ribbon. So each tab has its own ribbon. So this is the page layout ribbon. This is the home ribbon. This is the review ribbon. Underneath the ribbon, you're going to have your name box, which tells you the name of the cell. Then to the right of that, you have your formula bar, where you're going to type in your formula. Then at the very bottom, you have your sheets. So your different pages, you can create and delete them. To delete, you right click and you're going to see the option to delete and even rename that sheet. And then on the right hand, you have your different views and zoom and so on. Are you guys clear on the interface? Clear on the different parts? Very important for you to remember, because in your exam, they kind of ask you what are the different parts of the interface, what they're used for. So are you guys clear on that? Alright. Alright, so we're gonna wrap up here for today. Does each cell has a correct limit? No, not sure. Do that. That's a very good question. I don't think it has a limit, but that should be a homework question. Add that to your homework. Because somebody else asked me that same question, but I don't think it has a limit. It's not supposed to technically have a limit, because the cell is where you're going to enter a lot of information into it. But you can still check just in case there's a maximum limit. But I've never encountered a limit though. So, to review what we've looked at today, we looked at what is the purpose of spreadsheets. The purpose is to carry out calculations, to record or store our data or our calculations, and to present that data. So what do we specifically use it for? We use it for finance related documents, invoice, payroll, and so on. Remember, spreadsheets is made up of rows and columns, which gives you a grid of cells. Each column has a letter, each row has a number, and that gives you the unique reference for that cell, or that gives you the name of that particular cell. And then we looked at what is a range of cells. Any questions before we close? Any other questions? Questions going once? Questions going twice? So no questions. If no questions on anything we've covered for today, that is going to be it for today's class. Enjoy the rest of your night. See you guys tomorrow.
Wait, sir, we have a class tomorrow?
In school.